like the recent one near Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula, can send tsunami warnings rippling across the Pacific Basin. And cruise ships can be in very different situations when those alerts go out. Some may already be hundreds of miles offshore, while others could be docked in busy ports. Still, more may be deep inside the Alaskan fjords, and each situation demands a completely different response, with some being far more dangerous than others. If a cruise ship is already in the open ocean, it's actually in the safest place it can be. Here's why. In deep water, a tsunami isn't a towering wall of water. It's a long, low wave, often just a foot or two high, moving at 400 to 500 miles per hour. Ships ride gently up and down over that type of energy, usually without passengers even realizing it's happened. The danger only begins when the wave approaches shallow coastal areas, where the water is forced upwards and the energy turns into violent surges and swirling currents. For that reason, cruise ships offshore will stay offshore. Captains hold their position in deep water until the threat has fully passed, and the Coast Guard gives the all clear to approach land once again. To guests, it may feel like a normal evening at sea, but the bridge is fully on alert, monitoring satellite communications, NOAA weather bulletins, and Coast Guard instructions carefully. If a cruise ship is tied up in port when a tsunami warning is issued, things become more complex. Ports and harbors are dangerous places during a tsunami. Fast reversing currents can destroy docks, slam ships into piers, and sweep smaller vessels inland. In these situations, the cruise line will work directly with the Coast Guard and the captain of the cruise port in particular. And if there's enough time before the expected arrival of the first wave, the ship will leave as quickly as possible, heading for designated staging areas offshore. These are usually beyond 30 fathoms or 180 feet of water deep, where a tsunami poses little to no real threat to the ships. But if there's not enough time to safely leave harbor, the captain will secure the ship at the pier, adding extra mooring lines and shutting down the gangways. This is why ports are evacuated well in advance. In 2011, after the earthquake and tsunami in Japan, strong currents reached Crescent City, California, more than 5,000 miles away. Even without massive waves, those currents destroyed docks and sank more than 35 boats in the area. Cruise ships are much larger, but the physics are the same. It's always safer for them to be offshore than in port when water begins to surge. In places like Hawaii and the US West Coast, cruise ships often hold far offshore, while the tsunami threat is active. These waters are open enough that captains can position the ship in deep water and simply wait. Sometimes this can mean holding overnight, even if the itinerary had called for passengers disembarking. During the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, many ships in Thailand and the Maldives were already offshore when the wave struck the coastal towns. Passengers on board barely noticed the disturbances, but ships in the harbor were completely destroyed. Ships may also delay tendering passengers ashore or cancel it entirely until the harbors are confirmed safe. And even after warnings are lifted, dangerous currents can linger for hours. Harbor-specific all clears will be issued by the Coast Guard on a case-by-case basis, and until that happens, no captain will re-enter ports. They'll simply be closed. Ships inside Alaskan fjords face the greatest danger in this circumstance. Fjords are long, narrow channels with steep walls and shallow entrances. They act like funnels, concentrating tsunami energy rather than dispersing it. In 1958, a landslide generated a tsunami in Alaska's Lituya Bay, and it sent a wave 1,720 feet up the fjord walls. That's taller than the Empire State Building. Now, that event was caused by a local landslide, not a distant earthquake, but it proves how violently water can behave inside a confined space. If a tsunami warning is issued while a cruise ship is deep inside a fjord, the captain's first priority is to leave as soon as possible and try to reach the open water. If there's no time to exit, the ship will move to the deepest, widest area possible in the fjord, away from steep slopes or shorelines, and hold position. Remaining in a fjord during a tsunami is always a last resort. Even a small surge can create reversing currents, powerful enough to push a 100,000-ton cruise ship towards docks or rock walls. So, what does all of this feel like for passengers on board? Cruise ships are required to have public address systems that reach every cabin and public space. Rather than trigger panic with alarms, the captain or cruise director would make calm announcements, explaining the situation ahead of time and the plan.
Ladies and gentlemen, a tsunami warning is in effect. We are proceeding to deeper water and will remain there until authorities clear us to return. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Most guests will notice only a delay, possibly a missed port, or a hold overnight in deeper water. The ship's crew, however, will be on full alert on the bridge, maintaining constant communication with port authorities, the Coast Guard, and international warning centers. Tsunamis rarely arrive as a single wave. They often come as multiple surges, sometimes hours apart, with the largest often arriving long after the very first wave. That's why ships will remain offshore until they receive explicit clearance to return, because returning too early risks putting the vessel in the middle of more destructive harbor conditions. History has shown this patience is vital. So what happens to cruise ships during a tsunami? If they're already offshore, they'll stay there, where the wave's energy will pass harmlessly beneath the ship. If they're in port, they'll head for deeper waters if time allows, or secure the ship more tightly and wait it out. In Alaska's fjords, every effort will be made to escape to the open ocean, where the risk is the lowest. And passengers may only notice announcements or an unexpected short change to their itineraries. But for ports and coastal communities they visit, the stakes are far higher. Tsunamis are rare, but when they happen, cruise lines and captains follow clear procedures to keep their ships safe. And knowing what those procedures are may just put passengers' minds at ease the next time the ocean shows its power.